Hi guys, I'm Tiffany. I didn't have any allergies until I was 16. But last year, I developed an illness called cold urticaria, or cold allergy. When I say cold, I don't just mean cold weather during winter. I'm allergic to all types of cold, including ice cream. I even have to sleep while wearing socks on hot summer nights. I'm pretty sure you'll be shocked to hear of all the things I've been through. My dad has been working for the same company for 12 years. He'd been in the same position for years, so he wasn't happy. Last summer, he finally got the promotion he'd been waiting for. He decided to take us to a beach resort to celebrate. We hadn't been on a beach holiday for a long time, so we were really excited. We got on the road early on a Saturday. It was really hot, so we had the car's AC on the whole way. When we got to the resort, I noticed there were red spots all over my body. They were itchy, too. I didn't care because I was in such a good mood. We didn't know it back then, but it was because of the AC. We came down to the lobby after leaving our stuff in the room. My dad said he had to send a few emails for work. My mom and I went to the seaside. The beach was absolutely amazing. There was a pier that stretched out into the sea. Everyone was diving into the sea from it. After sunbathing for a while, I wanted to go for a swim. My mom said, "I'm going to stay here a little longer. You go ahead. I'll catch up later." I was happy because that meant I could dive from the pier. My mom would have never allowed it. I did it just as I had imagined. I ran down the pier and then made a perfect dive. In the water, I felt like 1,000 needles were prickling my skin. I didn't understand what was happening. So I thought, did my feet touch a sea urchin? I had to come back up to the surface. I realized it wasn't just my feet, but my whole body that was in pain. I said to myself, I must have touched some jellyfish. They sting like this. I didn't see any jellyfish around, but I couldn't think of any other reason. I no longer felt good, so I came out of the water. When my mom saw me, she jumped in panic. "Tiffany, what happened to you?" I didn't realize that my entire body, including my face, was covered in red blisters. Everything was itchy, too. When I said, "I got stung by a jellyfish, it really hurts," my mom said, "Let's go to the room and put some lotion on." I didn't want to, but I said okay. We later learned that my body had an allergic reaction to the cold water. At the time, we didn't know that one could be allergic to the cold, so we didn't imagine that that was the reason. I keep saying allergy, but many of you might not know what this illness is really about. Don't bother Googling it, I'll tell you what it is. Allergy means the immune system has extreme sensitivity to something, but this is, in fact, a false alarm. The immune system isn't supposed to react, yet it activates its defense mechanisms unnecessarily for unknown reasons. Allergy is a widespread illness. Some people are allergic to dust, others to peanuts. Some people's immune systems react to cat fur, while others to bee stings. I am allergic to the cold. My immune system activates its defenses and starts giving a variety of reactions when faced with cold. These reactions are usually redness, itchiness, swelling, and blisters on the skin. It would be fine if it stopped there. However, it can be really dangerous too. And unfortunately, I had a very bad experience. It was a week after the resort incident. I met up with my friend Leah. She had wanted to get a tattoo for a long time. We visited all the tattoo parlors around, but she wasn't happy with any of them. We were sweaty from the heat, so we stopped by an ice cream shop on our way. They had the AC on, so it was cool inside. We decided to eat the ice cream inside and got a table. After we got our ice cream, we were chatting and eating at the same time. After a short time, I felt a tingling and then an intense burning in my throat. I stopped and tried to understand what was happening. Leah realized that something was up. "Tiffany, are you okay?" she asked. All of a sudden, I wasn't able to breathe. I felt like there was something in my throat and it was blocking the air from coming in. I held my neck with both hands. I opened my mouth really wide to breathe, but no oxygen was passing through. The last thing I remember before I passed out was Leah screaming, "Something happened to my friend! Please call an ambulance! Please hurry!" I was at the hospital when I opened my eyes. My mom, my dad, Leah, and a doctor were there. Everybody was happy to see that I was recovering. "What happened to me?" I asked. The doctor smiled. "You said you couldn't breathe, but everything looks normal. I think you had a panic attack, so the reasons for this must be psychological. Get some rest. You'll be fine tomorrow," he said. My parents and I weren't satisfied with the panic attack explanation. On our way home, we decided to visit another doctor to get a second opinion. We went to a really famous doctor. He did a comprehensive examination. He listened to me carefully as I told him what happened. Finally, he said, "I don't think this is a panic attack." He did a bunch of tests afterwards, but he wasn't able to give a diagnosis because all the test results came back normal. One day, when I was at the supermarket with my mom, she said, "Can you get some frozen peas? I'll grab some milk and eggs. I'll meet you by the cashier." I went to the frozen food aisle. I opened the huge fridge. It was really cold. I looked for peas for like 15 to 20 seconds. I grabbed a pack once I found them. Then I closed the door of the fridge. That's when I started itching. I had red spots all over my arms. I took out my phone and looked at my face. It was also covered in red spots. I realized what was happening. I ran to my mom. She was shocked to see me that way. I teared up and said, "Mom, my problem is the cold. Cold stuff does this to me," and started crying. Yes, I had diagnosed myself. We immediately went to a dermatologist. He agreed with me when he heard my story. This is called cold urticaria. It's also known as cold allergy. It's very rare. I've only seen 3 cases so far. You're the 4th. But I need to do a test to make a definite diagnosis, he said. The doctor gave a small ice cube to my mom and said, "Put this on Tiffany's arm for a few seconds." My mom did as the doctor said. It felt prickly where she put the ice. Ice does normally hurt, but this was really painful. Afterwards, my arm swelled up and had red spots. It was itching really badly, too. The doctor said, "You can remove the ice. Unfortunately, this is the worst case of cold allergy I've seen so far." So it was official that I had a cold allergy. Honestly, the diagnosis didn't make much of a difference in my life, because there is only one cure for this allergy: staying away from cold weather and cold things. You can take allergy medicine, but like with most allergies, it's not very effective. You know that I had problems during the summer, so imagine how it would be in winter. Last winter was so difficult. My mom drove me to and from school. She would heat up the car before I came out of the house. I spent very little time outside, but I still had to wear really thick clothes. I looked like an astronaut. I had a hat that covered my whole face, a really tight scarf, a really long jacket that was filled with goose feathers, thermal tights, a really thick pair of pants, and thermal gloves that you'd usually wear when skiing. Even with all these precautions, I still had 3 or 4 incidents throughout the season. One of them was actually really funny. Guess where the allergy got me? In the bathroom! The toilet seat was cold. I sat on it in the morning without checking. The result was a disaster. My backside was completely red. Thankfully, I didn't get blisters, but I couldn't go to school because of the itching. Will I be like this for the rest of my life? Thankfully, no. This allergy is usually seen in women between the ages of 15 and 30. It usually lasts 5 to 10 years and then disappears. So one day you wake up with a cold allergy. You live with this condition that affects your whole life for years. And then, just like that, it disappears. It's really weird. You can get more information about this allergy if you search on Google. If you think that you might have the allergy, you can do the ice test. But the best thing is to see a doctor. The illness doesn't have a cure, but it requires the support of an expert. Thanks for listening to me. If you like stories like this, I suggest you subscribe to the channel. Bye.
Hi, I'm Molly. Something terrible happened to me last year because of my best friend Julie. It sounds crazy, but I was stuck at the bottom of the sea for 36 hours. Yes, at the bottom of the sea, underwater, for 36 hours, which is more than a day. You'll see that I'm not making it up when you hear my whole story. It all started when Julie showed me a photo. Molly, check this out. So I took her phone. Ethan, a guy that Julie met on Instagram, was holding the steering wheel of a boat and smiling. I never liked this guy, and this photo made me like him even less. It was so obvious that he was just a spoiled rich kid. So, I said, and gave the phone back to her. I could tell that she wanted something from me. He's inviting us to spend the weekend on his boat. I pretended not to understand. Us? How does he know me? He barely even knows you. You just message each other. She said, we talked on the phone for hours last night. Trust me, he's a great guy. Come on, let's go together. I immediately said, no way. What am I going to do on a boat with a total stranger for 2 days? So she said something she knew would work. What if he's a psycho? Are you going to leave me alone with a guy like that? This was the same sentence I used on her last month. I asked her to come with me when I was meeting a guy for the first time. So we went to the date together. She basically meant, now it's your turn. I had to say yes. On Saturday morning, we took a 3-hour bus ride to the beach town where Ethan lived. He picked us up and drove us to the boat. It wasn't too big, but it was so luxurious. There were 2 cabins below deck. Julie and I took over the big one. Ethan didn't seem like such a bad guy. I thought maybe I was wrong about him. When we came back, we were surrounded by water already on our way. Ethan was steering the boat. Please don't get me wrong, but don't captains drive boats like these? I asked. He smiled. Don't worry, this is a small yacht. I have a license to drive it. Anyway, we're not going to drive all the time. We'll find a good spot and anchor there, he said. Julie and I sat down to relax in the sun. It wasn't hot enough to wear a bikini, but the sun was still pretty strong. 2 or 3 hours later, we stopped. We anchored next to an island. Nobody lived on that part of the island, so it was just us, the sea, and nature. Ethan was a great host. He prepared all the food by himself. It felt like summer, even though it was the end of November. Julie didn't drink much, but Ethan and I got so drunk we could barely speak. He stood up. Your captain's about to pass out. I need to go to bed. The boat needs me tomorrow, he said, and wobbled his way to his cabin. After a while, we went back to our cabin as well. I was a little dizzy and got frustrated with myself for having drunk so much. I remember my head touching the pillow and I dozed off immediately. The sea was so calm when we went to bed. I don't know when the weather worsened and a huge storm began, but when I woke up, the yacht was rocking a lot. I looked for Julie, but she wasn't in her bed. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but of course I was not. I heard a pounding noise from below as if something was hitting the boat. With each hit, the boat would rise up and then quickly fall down. I knew it wasn't a good idea to go upstairs in such weather, but I had to find Julie. I tried to stand up, but it was impossible to stand on my feet. Just then, the boat swung hard. I tried to hold on to something, but I couldn't. I hit my back against the wall and screamed in pain. It hurt so much that I was sure I had broken something. The pain stopped after a while. I checked my arms, legs, and ribs. Nothing hurt, and I was relieved that nothing was broken. I suddenly realized the real danger. I was in a boat. There was a terrible storm outside, and boats tended to sink during storms. What was I supposed to do? Was I supposed to stay down here or try to go upstairs? I was thinking that the right thing to do was to go outside when the boat started to rock even more. It felt like the boat started moving. Had Ethan taken control of the boat? Were we going somewhere safe? I was trying to calm myself down when I heard a really loud noise. I realized that the movement was just due to the boat drifting, and we had crashed against the rocks surrounding the island. It was now clear what was about to happen. The boat was going to sink. I managed to get up because the boat wasn't rocking as much. I was trying to get to the door when suddenly it split in two and water started pouring into the cabin. It was what I had been afraid of. We were sinking. The water was pouring in so fast that I couldn't move through it. I went to the bathroom and shut the door. I took the towels from the cabinet and stuffed them under the door, but the water kept coming in. Until then, I had managed to stay calm. But now I had enough reasons to panic. The boat I was in had hit a rock in a storm and was sinking quickly, and I was stuck inside a tiny bathroom. For the first time, I thought I might actually die. I started yelling to get this thought out of my mind. Molly, use your brain! Come on! You have to find a way to get out of here. Use your brain. The bathroom kept filling with water, which had by now reached my knees. I stood up on the toilet. It was impossible to get out of here. The water was going to fill up this tiny bathroom soon. I don't know how much time had passed. I had resigned myself to my fate and was just waiting. The water was now up to my chest. At this point, I noticed that the bathroom seemed to be filling up more slowly. Was it a good idea to try to open the door, or was I supposed to wait until help came? But the water was still rising, albeit slower. Would I be able to survive until someone came to rescue me? There was no guarantee that someone would come. I decided to do a small experiment. I took a deep breath and dived in. I turned the door handle and pushed, but the door wouldn't budge. I tried again, but no luck. I came up when I was out of breath. Obviously, the boat had sunk. The door wouldn't open because the cabin was probably full of water. I was still alive, and I wasn't giving up. But what about Julie? Until that moment, I hadn't cried, but now I started sobbing and couldn't stop. Meanwhile, the water had risen more. What's worse, taking deep breaths while crying had used up a lot of oxygen, and I could feel there wasn't much of it left. I was in such bad shape that I couldn't tell how much time had passed. The water was now up to my chin. I was cold, I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was tired and very sleepy. For a moment, I thought, let yourself go and let it all end. As a medical student, I was aware that it was hypothermia that made me think like this. I had been in cold water for a long time, so my body temperature had fallen, and it was going to continue to fall. I was losing hope that help would come. We weren't in open water, but who would look for us? Neither my parents nor Julie's knew that we were here. Would Ethan's family do something? I didn't think so. I thought this was the end for me. The water continued to rise slowly. It got so high that I had to stand on my toes to avoid drowning. Just then, I heard a sound. It was like someone had hit something a few times. I held my breath. The sound stopped. Maybe there was no sound. Maybe I was hallucinating because I was about to pass out. No! I heard the sound again, and this time it was closer. Anyways, if I was hallucinating, I would have heard my mom's voice or something. Why would I hear the sound of metal being hit? I dived into the water one more time. There was a soap dish made of stone. I grabbed it and came back up. I started hitting the wall with it. The other sound stopped. All you could hear was me hitting the wall. I stopped after a while. Then the sound from the outside started again. I was communicating with someone. They knew I was here. They turned out to be 2 divers from the search and rescue team. At first, they couldn't open the door because of the pressure. But they were there to save me. After a while, they managed to get me out of the bathroom and then out of the boat. There were doctors on the search and rescue ship. They had a lot of experience with such situations and were able to help me recover from hypothermia. As soon as I was feeling better, I asked about Julie. I found out that both she and Ethan were okay. Apparently, Ethan had diabetes, but he was too drunk to take his insulin shot. Diabetes patients lose consciousness in such situations and go into a coma after a while. Ethan somehow got himself to our cabin door and knocked. Julie helped him right away. She gave him his insulin shot, but he was still feeling very bad. Just then, the storm broke out, so he had no choice but to go upstairs. Julie went up with him too. Thankfully, she thought of putting on their life jackets. Ethan managed to start the engine, but the waves were too big and he couldn't prevent the boat from drifting. They fell into the water when the boat hit the rocks. Julie never left Ethan's side. The waves washed both of them onto the beach. Ethan had lost consciousness, so Julie couldn't leave him. The next day, a group of hikers accidentally came across them. They are both doing well now. After hearing this story, my first reaction was, they'll definitely get married after going through this together. After a horrific 36 hours, I managed to come back to life. I think I did pretty well overall. Of course, I got very lucky, but deciding to go into the bathroom, managing to stay calm, fighting the hypothermia, I definitely deserve a well done. Thanks for listening to my story. If you like stories like this, subscribe to this channel. Bye!